ritual is nearly complete. The unspeakable old ones will enter our world. You can't stop it. You have to destroy them. An ancient apocalyptic cult has nearly summoned a great old one into our world. Its devastating arrival is imminent. Now what? Cthulhu Death May Die is an action-packed cooperative board game for 1 to 5 players. To defeat the eldritch horrors from out of space and time, you must embrace madness and work together. You'll need to uncover and solve the mysteries of up to 6 different episodic stories, using your unique combination of skills and insanities, fighting a wide array of terrible monsters from across the mythos. Then you must disrupt the ritual just long enough to make the Elder One vulnerable and kill it. Dead. It's probably a one-way trip, but you're up for it, right? Hello everyone, and welcome back to Foster the Meeple, a channel all about
board games
and
board gaming things.
Exactly. We are here today to do an overview and review, now known as Done Well, Do Better. We use that at work. Done Well, Do Better. Of Cthulhu Death May Die. Cthulhu Death May Die is from CMON Games and designed by Rob Davio and Eric M. Lang.
Indubitably.
So, without further ado, let's jump into the review. So, we are going to start with a little bit of an overview about Cthulhu Death May Die. Jeffrey.
Cthulhu Death May Die is a Lovecraftian themed, objective-based fight game.
Fight.
Is it? I don't know if you could consider it skirmish. You are cooperatively trying to defeat Cthulhu, his minions, or Haster and Haster's minions. So this is Haster, Cthulhu's on Jamie's side. You have an objective. Normally it's to disrupt some sort of ritual, which will summon Cthulhu or summon Haster to the board. And then the sole objective becomes to defeat either or, whatever one you're playing with. So there's different scenarios you can play and a lot of variability because you can play different scenarios, but you can play it with Cthulhu. You could play it with Haster, which changes which minions are on the board. I'm pretty sure you can increase difficulties and stuff, and I think there's a ton of add-on content. We just have the base. This was sent to us from Asmodee for review. I've obviously painted the miniatures, as you can see.
There is variable player powers, so every game you get to choose a different character.
Yep.
You begin to learn which characters are your favorites. Jeff has only played as Rasputin.
So Rasputin, whatever you want to say. I now refer to him as Rasputin because I'm Canadian.
I've tried, I think, 4 different characters now, and it's just really interesting how they each play differently. So just the asymmetrical player abilities is also a part of...
Yeah, they're not necessarily asymmetrical, though. I think there's only like 4 different player powers, and then you can power up each one depending on how you want to power up your character. So I wouldn't say there's asymmetry.
My bad.
Unlike in Root.
In Root. You are fighting Haster or Cthulhu with your little people cooperatively through different scenarios to see if you can win. Some people die. Some people live. It's like Mansions of Madness with more fighting minus the app. So let's dive into our Done Well. So we're going to start by talking about all of the things that this game does well, what we like about it, and then we'll move into our Do Better. Jeffrey, what do you think this game does well?
The production quality of this game is amazing. As you can see, it's
CMON. You can't go wrong with their minis.
It's a CMON game. It's incredible. It looks amazing on the table. I do like that there's different stages of the monsters. So Haster and Cthulhu, which are the end game monsters you're trying to defeat, have different stages, 4 total, and you have to defeat each stage. And that's just a really cool mechanic, and they get stronger as you go. There's a ton of dice rolling in this. So very tactile. I love the tactile feel. I don't love my luck, but actually I seem to have
very good luck.
I seem to have very good luck in this game in particular for some reason, but very tactile. You can upgrade, as Jamie mentioned, you can upgrade your character to become more and more powerful and pick up items, which is really cool to increase your power. And normally that just means you're rolling more dice. To improve your chances to roll a successful hit or miss kind of deal. And at some point, like, characters can get crazy and you're just rolling like a million dice and just doing so much damage. What about you?
I really like the theme. If you've ever played a Lovecraftian game, the theme carries throughout and it just becomes very familiar. So there's a lot of mechanisms in this game that, because we've played Mansions of Madness, Arkham Horror the card game, you just kind of get easier. So there's, you know, everything from the insanity complexity levels, to the mythos phase, to the characters that you know and love. Now, that being said, I don't recognize any of these characters from the other games, like Wendy Adams isn't here, but there's still just a lot of things that kind of carry over from Lovecraftian game to game, and I think this one does the theme just really well. The components, like Jeff said, are amazing. It's CMON, so cool minis are not, so you know the minis are actually cool. They're not cool. And I think overall, it was a really, I don't want to say super easy to learn. I think it was easier for us to learn because we've played other Lovecraftian games, but we played a few rounds with Max and Danielle and we picked it up pretty quickly. This game has a ton of replayability because like Jeff already said, it comes with 6 scenarios for you to play, and you get to choose if you want to play with Cthulhu or Hastur, and then that changes up the game. Number 1. Number 2, you can change the characters that you play with and the combinations of characters that you play with, and that changes the game. And just by the nature of it being a dice roller and there's a little bit of luck involved, that changes the game as well. So I really like that there's a lot of variability and a ton of replayability, plus there's expansions that you can get for this as well. And then one other thing that I just really love, and I think this game does really well, is the diversity of the characters. You have a lot of men, women, people of all different backgrounds. Yeah, it's just a good balance of everyone. They look really cool painted. There's a good amount of decision making, but it's not too heavy thinky. You can work with other people, and I kind of like that.
When this was first out on the board, when Max was teaching us, I was like, holy smokes, this looks
like there's a lot going on.
The big boy, that's going to be tough. Bit of a slog, but it really wasn't. It's fairly straightforward. I wouldn't be overwhelmed if you see it on the board and you're like, oh, that's going to be too much. Like, it really is. It's way lighter than it seems, in my opinion.
So, anything else for done well?
I did like the Discover cards. I don't think we talked about that, but in this game, if you end your turn in a safe space, which means if your turn completes and there's no enemies in your space, you're safe. And that means you get to pick up a Discovery card, which could be a multitude of things. It could be an item. It could be
something that you save for later.
A condition. It was a really cool mechanic that I enjoyed.
Yeah, and it also comes with condition cards at the beginning. You get to choose between 2, and it's a different type of mental illness, which I know it's a bit of a touchy subject because that's one thing about Lovecraftian that is a little bit like, but it is part of the game. So you get to choose from 2 different conditions, and then every time that your insanity track hits a certain point, then that triggers that card, which is kind of another added element to the game, and it will do something a little bit bad and something a little bit good, and then that's when you get to upgrade your character. So I feel like there's always something interesting happening. You're never really bored in this game.
And it's really cool. Like, I played with the Pyromancy one, and you can get really...
It goes well with the rest.
You can get really deep into this, too, like, if you really dive into who you want your character to be. So in our last game, I was Rasputin, and I was a Pyromancer, and so I was basically just running around, like, going like setting fires in rooms, and whether it was to my own detriment or our team's detriment, I was just like, fire, fire, fire.
Rasputin.
I had such a great experience with this.
Yeah, it's super fun. So in terms of do better, so a little bit of critique on the game and things that we think this game could do better. I have one thing in particular. There was, I think it might have only been 1 game, maybe 2 games, where I happened to pick a character that was not really an action-y character. They were more like, each character has different strengths. So
could be more medic-based.
Yeah, Morgan, as an example, is a protector, and his whole thing is to protect people. Whereas Elizabeth has marksman, so she can like kill people from a distance. So she's able to like get away quicker. You need to really look at the characters beforehand. So I was Fatima in 1 game, and her character is just not a fighty character. And for me, I need to be able to be in the action and fighting. And so I was like horribly bored that game. I felt like I didn't get to do anything. And so I think like you need to, number 1, read what your characters do, and number 2, talk with the group about who has what strengths and how to best utilize them, because we didn't really do that. And I just kind of was sitting there, and I was like, I at that point did not like the game at all until I played another game I played Ian, and then I played with Elizabeth, and I really enjoyed those. So I think this game, you can become the victim of being like, this isn't very fun if you choose a character that doesn't match your play style.
Yeah, I think your point is valid. Like, you actually, instead of just like being like, I don't care, just give me a character, like you should take some time to see what that character is good at.
Yep.
Like Rasputin is good to just get into a room and just fight. like in-your-face brawler type, and that's really cool. They all play somewhat differently enough that, to Jamie's point, if you don't like being the medic or the support person and you pick a medic or support character, you're not going to have a good time.
No, I want somebody that's going for the murder, murder points.
My biggest thing with this game is just recessed boards. It drives me nuts. It's not just this game, it's pretty much any game that has this many components with a player board, with little pieces of cardboard that need to be manipulated. Just make the board recessed, please. Any publisher out there, I will pay extra for a game. If you're going to tell me that every board game like this is going to have recessed board, but it's going to cost an extra $10, just do it. It just improves the experience tenfold. This is annoying to play with without recessed player boards.
Yeah. And what Jeff is talking about, like, this is the player board here. There's little tentacle pieces that you put on your health, your insanity, your skills, and your stress. And they just sit on top of it. And if you knock it or if you move, or if the wind blows, it could blow away with a whistle. That's what's going on with this.
And then it's like, where was my stuff?
It happens so many times that you don't remember where your things are. That's just a little bit annoying. And this is slippery to begin with.
I have noticed, actually, there's been more games that I've opened up that we've gotten recently that actually have recessed player boards. So I feel like publishers are listening.
I mean, I can kind of understand, like Jeff said, with the whole cost thing. It's just
and don't get me wrong,
annoying.
like I understand I'm in a position that I can spend a bit extra. So I'm not speaking for everyone here. It's just a preference I have. I know immediately when I pull it out of the box and be like, this is gonna suck. There's gonna be pieces everywhere.
The last thing that I kind of want to touch on is just a little bit of a comparison from the Lovecraft games that we have played, the bigger boys. So Mansions of Madness, Cthulhu Death May Die, and really only those two, because I think Arkham Horror, the card game, is a little bit of a different beast.
Yeah.
So in between Cthulhu Death May Die and Mansions of Madness, this one I think is for you if you prefer that, like, really head-to-head fighting. There's no puzzles in this game. You're not really trying to solve really anything. You're trying to break a ritual, so you have to find
the objective, right?
You know what the objective is. You can see everything, and really it's just you're trying to kill all of the bad guys and then ultimately the big bad guy. Whereas Mansions of Madness is an app-based game that is very atmospheric. We can never figure this out. There it is. Which is very, like, thematic and immersive and it's it's a little less fighty. Like, most of the time in Mansions of Madness, we're almost like avoiding the bad guys. You're running away from them.
Like, there's
puzzles and there's like you have to talk to people to get information that you have to remember for later. And
these games can coexist on your shelf.
Totally.
They're different enough that you could play both and enjoy them, and we have.
We have. If you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I've seen both of these and I don't really know which one to go for. Like, if I'm making a decision, if I had to choose between them, I'm choosing Mansions of Madness. I think you're probably choosing this one.
Yeah.
So if you have more preferences like me and you're really into the theme and like that atmospheric, immersive experience where you're not so worried about, like, you know, this is a great game for like the minis and the fighting and whatever, but like I really love the story of Mansions of Madness, and whereas this one I think you really like that head-to-head.
I really like the fighting, Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a good analogy for how we play Mansions of Madness as well. Like, you prefer to kind of scope things out and run around and talk to people and uncover puzzles and stuff. And I prefer, like, going at the people and trying to fight them, even though I fail every time in that game because the fighting in that is so difficult. But
yes, I think that, like Jeff said, there's a place for both of these, and we
100%.
We enjoy both of them a lot.
For different reasons.
Yeah. We've played this one now about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And we've only played it at 4 players, so I'll be really interested to see how it plays at 2, because we've only played Mansions of Madness at 2.
Yep.
So
that's fair.
Yeah, it's not necessarily apples to apples, but overall, this is a great game. We would definitely recommend it. It is definitely one that we are probably going to be looking at getting some of the expansions for at some point and continuing to play through the scenarios. We've only played 3 of the 6. This is a great game for spooky season. Boo! One of these. I actually didn't think that you were gonna do it.
It's too easy, people.
I'm not usually that jumpy. Usually I'm the one getting you.
I just did this and I think a booger flew out.
Onto me?
No, that straight ahead.
Ew.
I mean, if you're a painter, you'll love painting these minis.
They look great painted, except they have like really gross butts.
I don't want to speak too quickly, but might end up in my top 10 at the end of this year. Jason loved it.
Yeah, Jason loved it.
But Jason also loves Lovecraftian theme, and I just want to play more.
Me too. Ditto. Look at his butt. It's so gross. It's like wrinkly.
It's not wrinkly.
It's
He's
saggy.
got barnacles and stuff. Or like
It's saggy though. A little saggy butt. This one doesn't even have a butt.
Sure
that
doesn't.
one does. Ugh. He's got a gross butt too. Anyways, that is all that we have for you guys today. Let us know down below if you have tried Cthulhu Death May Die and what you think about it. If you are interested in buying games like Cthulhu Death May Die, great place to check would be your friendly local gaming store. And for us here in Halifax, that is
Boardroom Game Cafe.
Exactly. We'll put all of their information right down here, bing, as well as down below. But that is all that we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see,
please subscribe.
And we hope to see you.
I never know when you're gonna do that.
I know. Sometimes I just like to throw. Oh God, Jeff! Woo! Spooky season. And we hope to see you again soon. Now we say goodbye. Goodbye. Boo!
Oh, you got me that time. Later days.
Bye.
You actually got me that time.
Your face. It also has a high quality paper rule book, just in case anybody was wondering. Whoa.
Why are you doing this? Because I painted them.
Yeah, they look good.
You don't have to show them and stuff.
Yeah, but I want to. Oops. This is his buddy. Oh my God.
You listen.
I know.
You
Jack.
know.
I let him down like an idiot. Go.
He'll come down to eat for like literally 2 minutes, and then he'll cry at the gate to get back up through the gate immediately. He's so annoying.
It's ridiculous.
He's such an annoying cat. Ugh. Don't you do that when I'm done?
Sometimes I just like to clap.